Hello, friends, and welcome back to the next episode of Like Anime. My name is George, and with me, as always, is Tony.
Tony! I did this last week, didn't
Yeah, I like that you're your own hype man. Like, I already gave you an intro, but you still have to be like, Tony!
Tony!
Like, you got a whole, like, fan club. It's like, Tony!
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 Tony! Well, there's that song is it by the Pixies? This song is about a superhero named Tony. It's called Tony's Theme. And then at some point during the song, they go, Tony! Tony!
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Really? I'll play it for you sometime.
Nice. I like the Pixies.
It's called Tony's Theme.
Yeah,
In case you didn't get that.
That seemed. Well, I thought it'd be funny if it started that way, but it was just called something else, like Stranglehold or. Yeah, it's a Ted Nugent cover. Anyway, that was just what popped in my head. This is not a Ted Nugent podcast or a Pixies podcast. It is instead an anime podcast. So,
But it could be either of those things at any time, as long as it's related to the anime that we're talking about in some probably really thinly connected way.
we're talking tertiary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the fact that my name is Tony is what brought up that whole.
And that has nothing to do with anime, except that you're a co-host of an anime podcast.
Except that I watch a lot of anime.
And we're here to talk about it. So without further delay,
Sure?
Yes.
You don't want to delay any further?
No, I'm pretty firm on the, absence of delay at this point.
Okay. That's echo. It's not delay. It's different.
Odd Taxi. I'm just gonna say it. Somebody's got to start this.
Keeping us on track.
Believe it or not,
right.
folks, we had a whole conversation pre-recorded or pre-recording about how we're going to keep it brief, and we always fail to do that. But we always promise to try. So let's start with some Odd Taxi. Some Odd Taxi.
I don't make promises.
You don't keep promises now.
It's because I don't make them. Makes it easy to not keep them. Odd Taxi, episode 9. All right, so at the beginning, I think Odo's having a conversation with a little Daimon, right?
Yeah. He got Odo made a recording of Dobu laying out his plans and mentioning his the older Daimon brother.
Yep.
But the little Daimon brother is kind of like, yeah, I heard it, but
But that's just what Dobu's saying. Why am I supposed to believe Dobu? Why would I believe Dobu over my older brother? I guess.
Which is fair.
Yeah. Anyway, and then I guess the next thing that happens is Odo and Dobu need to rescue Kakihana. Actually, I guess, there's the thing. What happens? Odo takes a picture of Dobu and sends it to Hippo Boy, right? But
Was that Odo that did that? That makes
Yeah.
more sense. I missed that little scene, I guess.
Yeah, because
I saw him get Kabasawa as a hippo kid, but
Yeah.
I saw him get that, but I
Okay.
didn't know if it was like someone just posted online. I didn't realize it was Odo.
It was Odo, yeah, because Dobu's off like getting a beer or something, and he sort of snaps a picture over his
Okay.
shoulder, and then we see him texting Hippo Boy, whose name I forget again, even though you just said it.
Kabasawa.
Anyway, so then Odo and Dobu are going to go rescue Kakihana. Dobu's not totally on board with this, but Odo is insistent that we got to rescue Kakihana.
Yeah. And Dobu, despite being a mobster, henchman guy, who's done, numerous nefarious acts, he's he's a good guy, like in some ways, especially in this episode we see, because he has all these hang-ups about doing this because he made a pact, or at least had an agreement with Yano, since they're working for the same guy, to not interrupt interfere with their dealings, no matter how seedy they may be.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the way to it, he's kind of voicing his reasons he doesn't want to do this, but then he ends up doing it anyway. And
Odo says, you guys agreed, so you're saying that you're not going to interfere with his work by helping me rescue my friend, but I'm telling you that I'm not going to help you with your bank robbery unless we rescue my friend. So isn't he interfering with your business?
Yeah.
That's Odo's explanation.
Which is fair, yeah. So Dobu's left kind of just like,
whatever, I don't care. Yeah. Anyway, so on their way there, Tanaka finally catches up to Odo and pulls up next to him in a van. Well, he's following him for a while, and we see that. And then he pulls up next to him and starts shooting at Odo out of the van window. And then there's like a sort of car chase thing, and then the car chase ends.
Well, there's a cat.
I know, that's what I was going to say.
Oh,
The car
okay.
chase ends when
Oh, okay.
Odo swerves to avoid a non-anthropomorphic cat in the road.
Yes.
And then Tanaka, also a cat, except anthropomorphic, he crashes as a result of, Odo swerving and whatever. And yeah, so it's kind of, I don't know, this whole, we discussed earlier, like we had seen birds, but nothing else.
Tanaka had a pet bird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no, there's no bird anthropomorphic characters.
Right. We haven't seen any anthropomorphic birds, but also prior to this, we had not seen any non-anthropomorphic mammals.
Yes.
But now we have.
So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's...
And then we're going to see more later, too.
Yeah.
I'll bring that up then. All right. So the car chase ends because he swerves to avoid a cat. Tanaka crashes. And Odo and Dobu proceed to the wharf and rescue Kakihana, which is what they were trying to do. And then Odo takes Kakihana to Gariki. Dobu stays behind. I guess he's still fighting the guy, right?
Yeah. When Dobu, I think I think Odokawa's already gone with Kakihana when Dobu's still wrestling with this polar bear.
Is he a polar bear? Is that what he is?
That's what I thought.
Okay. I could buy that. I wasn't sure. I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, that's what my gut was telling me.
Yeah.
I don't know his name, but he has like an electric baton, or I don't know if it's like a cattle prod, or I don't know. But Dobu ends up getting that from him in the nick of time before being strangled, and kind of gets the upper hand.
And then just beating him with it, not using the electric part at all.
Yeah, which I thought was he doesn't know how it works, maybe. What button do I push?
I gotta push the button.
I'll just beat him with it. I don't care.
I got monkey hands here. What am I supposed to do with this? I don't have polar bear hands.
He has some badass line, and then bests this polar bear guy, and then he's walking. They're at some I don't know warehouses or something, and so he's walking down around the corner, and he gets shot in the leg. I think it's the leg, right?
Yeah, in the leg, the left leg.
And so, and his immediate reaction is like, the masked guy. I forget what he says, but like I don't know if we don't see him.
We don't see him, right?
But
yeah.
It seems like he either saw him or he's just assuming like someone's shooting. It's probably that guy that keeps trying to kill us.
Tanaka.
Yeah. Who he doesn't know, but Tanaka.
Does he? He doesn't say Tanaka then?
No, I don't think so.
He just says skull mask guy or something.
Something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think you're right.
And then, but we don't see him. But who we do see is Kabasawa, the hippo kid, comes up and is like trying to act like, oh yeah, he's filming it. Is like, look, I got him and
got him.
I'm a badass and mic drop and all that. And then Dobu just very easily,
sneaks around behind him and puts him in a chokehold.
Yeah, because he's a kid.
Yeah.
But then we learn
He's a college student apparently, but yeah.
Oh, this is a scene we saw earlier. I think this might have been how it started, actually. But we see Kabasawa, like the hippo kid, laying in a bed with like this cutie rabbit girl, and so clearly he's like getting laid, and he has like an apartment. And
wait, is it a rabbit? For some reason, I thought that was the lead singer of Mystery Kiss.
Oh no,
that was not her.
No.
Oh, okay.
Because she's like a white dog.
Yeah, I thought that's.
No, this one was definitely a bunny.
Definitely a rabbit.
Big, yeah, big floppy ears. I don't think I've seen her before, but with this show, I probably have, and I'm just not recalling it. But
I know the polar bear's name now. By the way.
Oh, what's his name?
I don't know. It's over there.
Oh, okay.
This piece of paper.
We know it. We're not disclosing it, but
yeah. I mean, is there a reason to say that his name is Sekiguchi?
No, Sekiguchi.
There's no reason to say that.
I mean, I said it. But so we learned that like he has it was kind of already hinted at because he had started this like online salon, and it was like a subscription thing, and so he was extorting money from people, over his fake call for trying to get Dobu or whatever, his whole spiel.
I don't think extort is the right word, but I would I know what you mean.
I guess, but he wasn't. He was doing it.
he was taking money knowing that he wasn't really
Yeah.
doing what
He's lying about.
he was lying.
Yeah. Isn't that not
fraudulently obtaining the money.
Yeah.
Extortion's a little bit different, but it's fine. Whatever.
All right. Fine. So going back to the scene with Dobu, I don't know, like there's another example of Dobu like being a good guy. He essentially gives him like a therapy session, essentially trying to get him to admit why he went through all of this, the reason, and of course it was to get popular and to be noticed, and Dobu's essentially like
he's just offering him some like practical life tips.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's like if you basically advocating for self-love, like if you weren't so if you weren't trying to run from yourself so much and get attention from others, then you could have some sort of acceptance and
Yeah. One of the lines I really liked was Dobu says to him, "Yeah, normal people aren't." What was it? Something about him being narcissistic. He's basically saying that Hippo-kun is narcissistic, and Hippo-kun, again, I don't remember his name. It doesn't matter. I'm going to call him Hippo-kun. Anyway, Hippo-kun is like, wait, I hate myself. How could I be narcissistic? And Dobu says, yeah, most people don't really think about how much they hate themselves that much. That's what makes you narcissistic. I don't know why I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, me too. Because it's especially for someone his age, since he is still like, I imagine he's young, teen, or
he's a college student.
I think it's college.
They say, yeah.
Oh. He seems a lot like younger than that.
He does.
But
I would have pegged him for middle school to high school originally, but they say several times that he's part of this scene even is he's like, yeah, I'm going to go back to college, and
that's true. All right, well,
so maybe
freshman in college.
Freshman in college, probably. Yeah,
I'll accept that.
Still technically a teenager, so yeah.
Maybe he graduated a year early. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So he, Dobu essentially like speaks some wisdom to him, but then he's like, I still want something out of this, and Kabasawa's worried that he's gonna lose his life, but it's like, no, just give me all your possessions and money that you acquired through this.
Yeah, Dobu says, like, what do you have? Like, if not your life, what do you have of value?
Yeah.
And Hippo-kun is, he's like, I got this new car that I bought with all the money that I got from people that are supporting me online. I bought a new apartment. I've got like $600 cash on me or something,
Yeah. Some amount of cash.
All right, I'll take that.
And then he has him post a video, kind of, just calling it all quits, and
he's saying leave Dobu alone.
Yeah, leave Dobu alone, and he's not putting me up to this.
Right.
So it's kind of like trying to like exonerate both of them of being like, I'm sorry I did this. I'm now done. Like, can we just
and also
forget it never
no
happened?
One's getting their money back.
Yeah. So yeah, and then they save Kakihana, like you had said, and he gets some medical treatment.
Yeah, Goiki gives him some medical treatment, and then I think the next thing that we really see at the end of the episode is Goriki goes to Odo's residence and ends up talking to his landlady. And so there's sort of some revelations of Odo's backstory from the landlady. And this is the other non-anthropomorphic animal. So his landlady is like, I don't know, St. Bernard or something like that, maybe. She's some sort of dog.
Yeah.
And then outside her door, she has like a Arcadia door that we can see out into her yard, and there's like little puppies out there, right? And yeah, I don't like, she's a dog and she has a dog as a pet.
She's freaky, baby.
I guess I don't know. I think we just sort of separate them as humanoid and non-humanoid, and don't worry about it, because I don't know how else to.
No, I think so too.
To rationalize any of this. I really was thinking like, okay, well, that's a puppy, and maybe the cat that they almost hit earlier was like a kitten or something like that, and like maybe only when they're young are they like non-anthropomorphic, and then they grow up. But we saw Tanaka when he was younger, so that doesn't make sense. So yeah, I can't rationalize it in any way, so I'm just going to ignore it. Is what I'm saying.
I don't think it's meant to be picked apart. It's just kind of
Yeah, I don't think it is either, but I still desire to pick it. It's a very annoying scab, and I need to pick it. I need to pick that scab.
I'm amused by it. It's been noted, and now we can move on. So I mean, speaking of this reveal, I didn't. I had assumed as much. It didn't really hit as hard as maybe
about Odo's past.
Yeah,
yeah,
as they were hoping, because Gariki was like under the impression, I guess, from talking to Dobu or from talking to Otokawa and other people, that his parents had just disappeared.
Yeah,
which doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, I guess it could happen. But yeah, it's confirmed by this landlady that they are dead, which I had assumed. I mean, he raised himself, so
yeah.
I mean, usually the state won't. I mean, I guess maybe they would pay for it if like you're just abandoned and your parents are still out there somewhere. So that could have been a thing, but for both of them to do that, it seems like kind of. But anyway, so yeah, they're dead.
Yeah, and there's more to Oda's backstory that's revealed there, but
Yeah, about it. Well, he's been living in that same place since he was like 5, and so this happened. His parents died at a very young age then.
Yeah,
and
then like all of his bills have been paid for like forever or whatever, but he still got a job and is paying the landlady for rent, which has already been paid. So she's essentially stockpiling money for him. I don't know. It's going to come back in some way. The whole money thing's got to come back in some way, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know exactly where it's going, which has been the case kind of the whole time, which is kind of great in this show, not knowing where it's going. Yeah.
I agree. I just want to add one more thing before we move on. Trying to keep it brief, but
one more thing.
I had to yell at the TV. I mean, Kakihana, I think it fits his character, but I was just
the
like,
ring.
yeah, what is wrong with you? Like I
have a note about it. I just skipped over it because we were kind of running through it real quick. But yeah,
he narrowly escapes, getting murdered, and then he's back into real life, and he has loan sharks to contend with.
Yeah.
After his ridiculous, idiotic decisions with this, online dating thing and lying, and so and then he throws the fucking ring in the river, and then immediately
he's
goes
got
looking
the ring,
for
and
it.
he's like looking at it, and like I guess it reminds him of this, chapter that he would rather forget. So he just like chucks it in the river. Yeah, and I was the same way. Like I was like, what do you do? You borrowed money to buy that. You can at least sell it back and pay off most of the money that you owe.
Yeah.
That you borrowed to buy it. Like so stupid.
Yeah, but it totally fits him. Like he's pathetic,
totally.
and the Otokawa and him have a moment when after he rescues him where kind of brings up this childhood memory, and he just half-heartedly makes a joke about like that's when you've
basically been a pussy since then.
Yeah. and Kakihana laughs, but certainly there's a kernel of truth there.
Yeah,
but that's Odd Taxi.
Yeah, it's a good show. Look, we're 3/4 of the way into the season. If you're not watching it yet, you're probably not going to, but you should.
And it gets buzz too. I see it online. People are talking about it, so it might be one of those shows. Someone, after the season's over, like, fine, I'll go and watch it, and think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I mean, some people maybe just wait until a show is done so that they can binge the whole thing, which I think this would be a good target for that. Yeah. Like I definitely feel like just running through it one after the other would be a good way to watch this one. Yeah. Because week to week you forget things, and
that's true. You lose some. I mean, the tension is still there, but it's like to watch them back to back would be more exciting.
Yeah. And we don't know for sure how many episodes this is, if it's 13 or not. I know that says a question mark next to it. I know, because I put that question mark there. One source says that it's 13 episodes, but it's not from any official source that I'm aware of. So we don't know for sure. It could run longer, or it could be 12. Who knows? Don't know how much we got left. It's all a mystery, much like the show. And I got no segue. Megalobox 2 Nomad.
Megalobox.
That was my segue. How was it?
Excellent. It's just like a slap in the face. I love it.
Just say the name of the next show.
So this one, I mean, like we're saying with Odd Taxi, like if we're this deep into Megalobox, if you're not watching it already, you should go back and watch the first season. But yeah, we've been setting up this whole thing in this season with Sachio and Joe rekindling their relationship or
Yeah.
burying, burying the bones of their past
Mm.
together. And we had a small step towards that.
Yeah.
Essentially, this episode starts with because Joe's slowly working on rebuilding their gym that they had. They were called Team Nowhere in the
Mm.
first season when it was just three of them, and so he's slowly rebuilding that. But from the past couple episodes, he's won over two of the friends of Sachio's. These orphans that
Yeah.
call it kind of like a little family. Two of them are like helping him build, and then later on the episode, another one, a girl of the group, joins them. A little like she's not like jumping into it, but they need help, and it's like in that scene it's like really windy, and they're trying to hold stuff down, and anyway, that's not a huge plot of this, but it kind of sets up a little bit of that. Like his friends are being endeared to Joe again, and
Mm.
so that he's got that hanging, and he stays away. So this leads to a scene in the episode where Joe is going to visit the grave of the coach, and Sachio is also there. It's kind of just happenstance, I guess. It's raining because they don't, they haven't bumped into each other in a while, and Joe's been, spending a lot more time with, his friends and stuff. So they end up bumping into each other there, and it just kind of highlights how Sachio really, he still holds on to these naive beliefs he had at the time, which is like he didn't understand why Joe couldn't be there and why he had to, he couldn't be with the coach during his last moments, and then he had to go and put everything on the line again, and like turn everything into like a boxing match, um, instead of just facing what was real and sticking with his quote unquote family. But then in this scene, he says, he's yelling at Joe as Joe's approaching the headstone, and he's just saying like, you rebuilding the gym isn't going to do anything, and it's not, that's just not going to make everything magically okay again. And then Joe puts like a flower on the on the grave, and says something like, all I want to see is the lights in that place go on again. Like as in memory of the coach, and
Mm.
trying to make up for things. And then it flashbacks to a memory, and we don't see any of Sachio after this, but it flashbacks to a memory where Sachio is remembering talking to the coach at his bedside, in the hospital, and them just having kind of a conversation where Joe, all this comes up, and the coach says something like, uh, Joe only knows, the only way we got to where we are now is him putting everything on the line and trying to, you know, use boxing to help this family, help what we have. It's essentially all he knows how to do, but at the same time, he feels like if he doesn't, or at least when the coach dies, he's saying about himself that the lights will go out, meaning that
Mm.
they won't have anything anymore. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining it well enough, but I liked it. It's another scene in this show that I think is very classy, where they don't just like you know shove it in your face of like the characters are fine now, or they've
Right.
grown. Haven't you seen? It's just a little, I don't know, a little subtle, and a little and definitely like organically built up. But anyway, I that's my favorite part about this. I'll keep the rest brief. Um, Lou is the other boxer who was defeated by Mac in the
Mm.
previous
Mm.
episode, and he has survived, but they say he'll never box again due to his the injuries. And then with Mac, um, he approaches this Ryugo Sakama guy, who's like the CEO of this medical technology company that revived him, and he approaches him about this whole Mac time thing, which really isn't Mac time, where he would like kind of go into overdrive and kick butt. It's actually it seems to be a side effect of the experimental technology that he has
Mm.
in him after he was paralyzed. And it's just I don't know. This is a weaker part, but I see where they're going with it. But it's like he essentially approaches this guy, this CEO, and is like, "I want out. I want to be done." But the CEO in his mind is like, "Well, I need you to spearhead. You're the symbol for this. And I haven't sold it yet." And so he ends up convincing him to do it with a promise of fighting Joe, uh,
Mm.
because I guess because with Mac's story, he was a boxer, and then he never became that successful doing that, so he became a cop, and then he was successful at that, I suppose. But then after he got paralyzed, I'm not sure the timeline of it all, but between he was a cop and when he was paralyzed, Joe rose to fame, and he was like a
Mm.
big fan and has always wanted to fight him, I guess. So that scene when he first walks out to fight Lou, they introduce him and he locks eyes with Joe. I guess that's why, because
Ah.
he sort of, I don't know if he idolizes him, but
So
like
so
he
Joe
views,
didn't know him, but he knew Joe.
yeah.
Okay.
And at the time, one of the kids says, like, as he's staring at Joe, like, "Do you know him?" And he's like, "I've never met him before." It's like, okay, well, that explains it. It's a one-sided relationship, but it seems less like idolizing and more like rivalizing. I don't know, like,
Mm.
it's not really a word, but it seems like, yeah, he wants to. Yeah, everyone wants that. Lou wants that as well, and he can't box anymore. But so at the end, they hint of this episode, they hint that that might happen. I'm curious how Joe is going to agree. The circumstances in which Joe will agree to do that, because
Mm.
at this point he's kind of professionally hung up his gloves. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure how that'll play out.
They'll put the pinch on the kids and force him into it,
Yeah,
presumably.
and it'll probably increase the tension and also work in tandem to bring Sachio fully into, maybe not fully, but enough into Joe's, camp, somehow. I'm not sure how they'll do that, but I have faith they'll set it up. Yeah, this one, I mean, I gave it a light 8 because I just like this. I like the season a whole lot. So I've been riding an 8 on it for quite some time now. This one, it was not as good as the last few, but it's still good, and I especially love it for what it's doing with Sachio. I think it's kind of necessary to kind of inch forward a little bit before having some big moment, some big emotional breakthrough. So
Yeah. Well, it sounds like proper high drama as compared to Higehiro. After being rejected, I shaved my beard and took in a high school runaway, which tries to be high drama, but sort of fails most of the time.
violence.
Yes, plenty of that. So, yeah, Sayu's brother has found her, has confronted her at Yoshida's place, and basically demands that she returns home. And she's like, well, I'm not ready to go home yet. And so then they talk about feelings and stuff like that. And she and her brother essentially strike a deal. And he says, well, all right, I'll give you a week to, sort out your feelings and put in place whatever you need to put in place. But then you have to go home. And there's more to it than that, but I don't really need to go into much detail on it. So then Sayu invites her friend from the konbini, her only friend really, her coworker friend, and proceeds to tell Yoshida. And anyway, so Sayu tells the whole story of everything from like what happened before she ran away, why she ran away, all of that stuff, and up to the current time, basically, or up until she met Yoshida, I think. I think I called him Yamada before. Basically, the story is that Sayu's mom sucks. Sayu doesn't like her. And because of that, Sayu doesn't have any friends, I guess, is what she says. But then she somehow gets this one friend who's like a not very popular girl. But then this not very popular girl, who is her only friend, is bullied by the other popular girls in the class, apparently because Sayu rejected a boy from the basketball team that confessed his feelings for her, but one of those other mean girls likes the boy from the basketball team, so they can't harass Sayu because she's pretty and popular, I guess, even though she doesn't have any friends. So they harass her loser friend. Anyway, long story short, her loser friend ends up committing suicide,
Oh wow.
and then her mom's a bitch to her about it, saying, "Are you sure it wasn't your fault?" Basically. So yeah, her mom fucking sucks. Anyway, so yeah, the writers are still trying to pull off this high drama nonsense with their mopey strings that creep in every once in a while, and it doesn't play that way. Like she's a naive high school girl who makes poor decisions, and she sort of has to endure the repercussions of those poor decisions that she has made due to her naivete. And yeah, that's just high schoolers. They're naive and they make poor decisions. So, like, where's the high drama here? Um, I don't know. Things honestly could have turned out a lot worse for Seiyu. Like that's the stuff that so like there's the stuff with the friend committing suicide and stuff. We don't get a lot of strings involved with that, but it's more like Seiyu sort of I don't know, talking about how unfortunate she's been in some ways or something. That's where the strings come in and stuff like that. And it's no, it doesn't work. She made bad decisions. She has had to endure the repercussions of those bad decisions, as naive high schoolers who make bad decisions have to do. She got really lucky in meeting Yoshida, that she sort of got out of that cycle of nonsense that she had gotten herself into. She would have continued making bad decisions, but he sort of, brought her out of that. Anyway, it's a little annoying that they're trying to play it so heavy on the drama. Not that there's not drama there. Like, there definitely is. Like, all of this stuff is dramatic in its own way. It's just not to the extent that they're trying to make you feel with their interjected strings.
Yeah. Well, that example you had in this episode sounds like pity, right? They want you to, feel really bad for her.
Yeah.
Like not bad for her for what happened, but how she feels about it, right? Where she's like, or whatever you said, like I can't do anything, or I don't know, I forget what it was, but something along those lines of self-defeating, like.
Yeah.
Like,
so,
because like you're saying she's an angsty teenager. It sounds like it's trying to justify those emotions as if they are like mature and just, whereas like they are something she should be learning from, not like wallowing in. Right?
yeah, and that's like the big problem is, like, has she really learned anything from this whole experience? Like, again, she got very lucky in meeting Yoshida and like not having to continue down this terrible path that she was on, and now her brothers come and wants to take her home, and like seems like everything's kind of going her way now. Like, she had a rough patch, but she made some poor decisions, and
yeah,
she put herself on that path. The fact that she is no longer on that path has nothing to do with any decisions she really made. I don't know. Yeah. So it's annoying in that regard, in that she, is naive and makes bad decisions, and it doesn't feel like she's learned anything. I suspect that they're going to convince us that she has, and there's still some sort of message to come, I suspect, right? The message has not quite been delivered yet, but yeah, so that's Higehiro. It's still, it's still decent. Like I say, there is drama there. They're just trying to push it further than the story justifies. They're trying to make it more dramatic than the story is. But even if they got rid of all that and just told the story and just left it alone and didn't try to push it so hard, it would be a fine dramatic story, and I enjoy that part of it. But they're trying too hard. It's annoying. Anyway, let's move on.
All right.
We got Yakumo. Let's make a mug too. I was trying to say Yakumo and let's make a mug too at the same time. I don't know why, but like I had an L and a Y in my mouth at the same time, and that's how they came out. Anyway, episode 9.
Sometimes that's just how the pottery comes out.
Sometimes
it's not always how you envision it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was picking up from last week's episode, um, what's her name?
Himeno?
Yeah, Himeno is working on her piece for the competition, which is going to be a ceramic cushion. Which, yes,
Yeah, she's all in on this idea.
yep.
Yep.
And along those lines, as you might imagine, it's those two ceramic and cushion are sort of opposed. You would think, and so
Yeah.
she has to go through a lot of trial and error of making different prototypes and testing them. Bisque firing them and seeing if they can withstand a Japanese girl's tushy.
Yep.
And so as they play it for laughs and blah blah blah, it's fun. But then I kind of liked the design they came up with. It was like this braided cushion where she basically intertwined the clay. You created like clay rope, essentially, as you can
Yeah.
roll out clay like that, and intertwine them, braided them essentially, and then after firing them, remove the rope to give it like
Yeah, so there's like 2 clay ropes and one, I think she said paper rope at the beginning is what
Okay,
she was
it's a
going to
paper.
use. And then when it was fired, that paper would burn off or whatever, although she ends up cutting it out, which I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, okay.
But yeah, so she comes up, and it's an interesting design. I don't know that it's any more stable than the previous sort of woven design that she made, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's a show.
Yeah, I bought it. I mean, I was like ceramic cushion. Like this is dumb. Like I can't. I when I was watching it, I was like, I can't imagine something you're gonna land on. It's like, oh wow. But then I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I like the idea anyway. I don't know how practical it is.
Yeah, and then she I think you said this. She braids another rope in back into the empty space that was left by the paper rope.
Yes, I didn't get
which
to that
would
yet,
then
but yeah.
be like a cushion-ish sort of thing, I guess.
So it's like cushion
make it
and
softer.
ceramic.
Yeah.
And it has like a lot of room to breathe. Like
Yeah, very airy.
yeah, if there's a nice wind, you can get some, a little draft going down there.
Get a little airy on your dairy, airy.
Ooh,
I don't know.
I like it. That's why you come here, folks.
Yeah, and then so she has her breakthrough, and whatever. Yeah, she made this thing that is probably going to win the competition because that's how these things go in these kind of shows.
I mean, probably who's that invested in that aspect, but yeah, you're probably right. I liked though because they open with this like meat patty scene where Himeno and the other ditzy one, I don't remember her name, but they're
my favorite voice actress's character.
They're like making patties for some
something with
reason.
a K. Kakuri. That's not it.
I think you're right. I think you're Kuri.
Oh, that's the wrong show.
Tony's looking that up, but anyway, they have to make patties for some reason, meat patties, hamburgers in class or for some function, and this character, the ditzy blonde one that you're trying to find her name, she packs cheese into hers in the middle of her patty, and then when they cook it too long, I guess the cheese melts, and so she's disappointed that it's gone. But this is how Himeno later gets the idea to create the clay piece with the rope, fire it, remove that rope, and then put another rope in it that's softer, I guess. I'm not sure about the second rope, but I don't know. I liked how those tied together. Like for this show in particular, it showed like a level of I don't know, thinking ahead that was appreciated. I was like, because at first I was like, oh god, here we go. Like this has nothing to do with pottery. They're making hamburgers. And then it tied into it, and I was impressed. I gave this a 7 out of 10, and that was partly why.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that too. Like they sort of harped on it a little bit with that whole the hamburger thing, and it was like, why? And then later it sort of makes sense, which is it's cool when you have something like that,
Yeah,
Chekhov's hamburger, right?
especially for such a shorter episode length. Like this one was well paced, I thought, compared to some of the other ones that feel rushed. But
I found her name. I think I said Kakuri before. It's Kukuri.
Kukuri.
So I was just off a little bit there, but yeah.
But yeah, so Kukuri, and Himeno, one's making patties in the beginning, and that sparks the idea later. But
Yeah, but as it turns out, she's not actually the one that is my favorite voice actress.
yeah, I was gonna say I thought she was one of my favorite.
Yeah. I don't know. Whatever.
Yours is the main one.
No.
Oh no, it's the one on the top. I just keep thinking it's the main one.
Yeah. It's the older, the senpai.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember. I can't keep them straight. But maybe if you watch the live action segment, you'll be able to do better than I do.
Even though we watch it too.
Yeah. So in this segment, the seiyus are going to get really fat because they just keep eating every episode. They eat so much.
Well, this food looked delicious.
I know, yeah. That's
too.
My next note is that said, I want to eat all of those things.
Mochi skewers.
Yeah.
That like had some sort of sauce on them, and then
like a yakitori sauce or something like that. I think.
And yeah, those looked really
barbecue-esque sauce, I suppose.
Yeah, and it was slathered on there.
Oh yeah, those look tasty.
Grilled eel. Very yummy.
Unagi, always.
And then soba and ramen was the last one, which.
Yeah, well, it was weird because it was like a flat noodle soba, and udon, right? Or no, it was a flat noodle ramen, and it was, I don't know, maybe they were both soba based.
Yeah, I don't know. They kept saying, well, that guy. They talked to this guy who like, is that's his passion and job. But yeah, he mentioned. I remember him mentioning soba and ramen. So I was like, I don't know. I'm not that knowledgeable about noodles. So.
But what they had was there was udon, the thick ones.
Yeah, I know udon,
which I know you like.
Yes, I miss it dearly.
And then they had these flat noodles that I guess was a soba based flat noodle ramen essentially or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I didn't necessarily follow all that either. But yeah, also looked great. He was very passionate about his noodles, about making the best noodles and cooking them the exact right amount of time so that they're soft yet still toothsome, and the things you want in a noodle.
Yeah.
And the seiyus seem to enjoy those noodles as well.
Yeah, they seem easy to please, but they're fun.
Well, I mean, they are on TV. They have to. They have to be positive.
But yeah, that's Yakumo.
That's Yakumo, which means next is the Saint's magic power is omnipotent. There's a fair amount that happens in this episode, but I think I can run through it pretty quickly. So after returning from the expedition in which she summoned forth a magic power that she didn't know she had and killed all of the monsters that were nearby, Sei and the Grand Magus are trying to figure out how she did it, because they're pretty convinced that this is the saintly conjuring that the Grand Magus was talking about before. And they try a bunch of stuff, and they don't really have any luck figuring anything out as far as how she did it. I mean, we know how she did it. It's about love. Love is the saint's magic power. We know this. But later, Sei is walking through the courtyard of the palace or castle or whatever it is, and there's an argument occurring between Liz and Prince Kyle, who are engaged, right? It's sort of revolving around the other potential saint, Ira. Basically Liz is trying to be Ira's friend and, sort of give her a break from Prince Kyle, I guess, is sort of what it seems. And at the same time, she's still got this weird jealousy thing where she's like, a guy who's engaged to someone else shouldn't be hanging out with a girl all the time, So there's like this whole thing. Anyway, Sei just sort of happens to be passing by and sees this happening, and it's actually her and the Grand Magus. The Grand Magus kind of disappears, and then he comes back with the king, and the king shows up and has like a confrontation with Prince Kyle regarding it, and Prince Kyle sticks to his guns and basically says, that he thinks that Sei is the fake and that Ira is the real one, which is what he said he was going to do, despite the fact that he actually knows that's not the case. But he's doing this for Ira. And so they then take their conversation to like a private chamber where he sort of, says the same thing and says, all right, I'll let it go, but you just have to he tells his father, the king, you have to promise me that Ira, can still do whatever she wants in this world, that she's sort of protected and stuff. And everyone involved in the situation sort of realizes that Prince Kyle is actually being kind of a stand-up guy by sort of taking the rap himself. So that I guess the issue is that once people find out that Ira is not the saint, they will think poorly of her because she was pretending to be the saint or claiming to be the saint or something like that. But Prince Kyle is basically saying, I'm the only one that ever claimed that. So he's sort of taking the rap. He's taking the brunt of all the hatred and stuff and sort of making her an innocent victim in the whole thing. So then people won't be mean to her because she's sort of a victim in it, and they'll just dislike him. But yeah, his character is
Martyr.
sort of, yeah, he's thrown himself on the grenade, basically. Yeah. So that's that whole situation with all of that. It ends up wrapped up pretty good, and then after that, yeah, Ira is basically free to live her life, decide what she wants to do, and all of that. And the next scene we see is her having tea and biscuits with Sei and Liz, and they're all sort of just sitting around girl talking, and she's Ira's saying, well, I don't really know what I want to do. I was just kind of going along with the flow, doing what I was told before, and now I actually have a choice. And both Liz and Sei are like, well, maybe you should join the Magicians Institute or whatever it's called. I think maybe I wrote it down. It's there somewhere. There's too many words. Anyway, the Magic Academy or whatever, where you go and you learn more magic, because she's good at magic. She's no like saint level magic or anything like that, but she, for how long she's been there, she has done really well and absorbed a lot of it, and has been really good at magic. And she's like, well, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And then Sei's like, oh yeah, well, I'm studying there with the Grand Magus every day, so I'll probably see you pretty often if you're going to school there. And then Ira's like, sold. I'm going to do that.
Okay.
Because she kind of looks up to Sei. They're both Japanese. Sei is older, so I think maybe Ira sees her as a sort of senpai figure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It makes sense to bring them closer together in this story.
yeah. And then I guess the only other thing that happens in this episode is later the Ice Knight is meeting with the head of the Herb Institute where Sei has worked and lived and stuff like that. The Herb Research Institute or whatever it's called. And they're talking about an upcoming expedition that the Ice Knight is going on, and Sei basically sort of volunteers to go along on this expedition because the place that they're going to is sort of the herb capital of the region, I guess. So she's, playing it off that she's really interested in learning more about the herbs of the region and stuff like that. But really, she's got some feelings for the Ice Knight, and she just wants to go along and make sure that she can protect him because from what she's heard, it is kind of a dangerous place to go. So danger on the horizon. We're going to have another repeat. I'm sure the Grand Magus is going to come along to observe Sei, and maybe they'll learn something about her saintly conjuring this time. But yeah, it's still fun. It's still interesting. It's it's all pretty nice. I guess the only thing I didn't say was that thus far, Sei has been trying to just have a nice, relaxing life, like do what she wants and stuff. But now that she has been acknowledged as the saint, the demands on her are becoming more and more. So she's less able to enjoy the placid life that she had been thus far. And, now she has to meet some expectations and stuff of the society, I suppose.
Okay. Is she whining about that?
No, not really.
Okay.
She's happy to take it on. It's more that other people are sort of doing her whining for her, saying, "Oh, well, it's a lot of burden for you, and you were just brought here against your will and stuff like that." That sort of thing is what's going on.
Okay.
Which is the only reason why it's noteworthy is that it's sort of brought up. But yeah, that's the Saint's magic power is Omnipotent. Episode 9. It's a good show, honestly. It's not like a 9 or anything. I don't even think it's an 8, but it's like a solid 7. Yeah,
Okay.
I enjoy it.
Cool.
It feels good.
Nice.
Feels good to watch it.
Kimochi.
Yes. And then next up, we've got our last actual show of this episode. We've still got the special challenge coming later. But before that, we're going to get to Your Eternity. To Your Eternity. To.
Welcome back to Your Eternity.
This episode's never going to end, is it? Oh, my God.
Yeah, so we're continuing with this, the story of Gugu and
Gugu.
Boozman, Luis Boozman, if you prefer, and Reen or Rianne, or I don't know where we're going with that, but
Rianne. I think it's supposed to be like Leanne almost, but it's I don't know. I think we'll just go with Rianne. I think.
And I don't remember what the order of things are exactly, but my first note is that she is volunteering to work for room and board, essentially, even though she's like royalty, question mark, or at least from a rich family.
Yeah, I think that's the second thing that happens, which there's some difference in the way the events occur between the manga and the show.
And you're ahead of the show, I'm guessing, at this point.
Yes, I'm still ahead.
Okay.
But I think the first thing that happens in the anime episode is that Gugu does some experiments on Fushi.
Oh, yeah. I did write that too.
Yeah. So, whatever. It can happen in any order, I suppose. Several of the things in this episode, because between the manga and the show, they do happen in different orders. But so I might be misremembering on the proper order that things happen in the show.
Yeah, that's my second note is about.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
So, well, let's start with Rianne. She's like, hey, I'll work at the shop. Seems like maybe she's doing it because she wants to have a chance to be close to Fuji. The mountain.
Tony?
She wants to be close to the mountain.
What have you done to Mount Fuji?
She wants to be closer to Fushi because she's kind of got a crush on him, I guess. And then Gugu is like talking to Fushi and like, can you make other things? And Fushi's like, I don't know. And Gugu's like, I'm tired of hearing that. Make something right now. And then Fushi just like makes a spear. In the manga, it looks like he sort of pulls it out of his arm, but in the show, it just sort of like appears or something almost. But yeah,
I thought it was like that spear because there was like a spear stuck into.
It was the spear
something
that he was stabbed with when they were experimenting on him at the other place, right?
Okay,
when they
yeah.
were like,
there you go.
Go in there and kill that person, you'll earn your freedom or whatever. And
Yeah.
they go in and they stab him. So that's a spear that he had been stabbed with.
Yes.
And he just sort of produces it from his body. And then Gugu's like, oh, hey, that's cool. What else can you make or whatever? What about this knife? And he like cuts Fushi's hand with the knife because I think they've determined at this point that there has to be something that, I don't know, pain or something maybe Gugu has determined is what causes it, and cuts his hand with the knife, and then Fushi's able to make the knife, heals up and makes a knife. And then Gugu like takes a torch and burns Fushi to see if he can make fire, but all he can make is the stick without the fire. Anyway, so Gugu's kind of a dick, I guess, but then Fushi,
well, he's pretty innocent about it, but
yeah, but then Fushi's like says something like, or he makes a face. That's right.
Yeah.
He makes the face. He makes the March face,
Yep.
like he's about to cry or whatever. And Gugu's like, why are you making that face? Look, if you don't like it, just tell me to stop.
Yeah, there you go.
And anyway, apparently Fushi is still sort of upset about this whole thing because the next thing that happens is Gugu is talking to Boozman about Rand's wound that hasn't healed yet, and Boozman says, oh, maybe I got something for that, and he like, pops the cork out of Gugu's face where his nose used to be, sticks like a siphon in there and siphons out some alcohol.
You're sure it's his nose?
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. I mean, in the anime, you don't really see.
In the manga, you also like. I was actually curious how they were going to pull this off because in the manga, you've only got like separate cells, right? Whereas in anime, there's so many more frames that you see. I wasn't sure how they were going to pull it off without ever showing his face.
Yeah.
But in the anime, they sort of show his face once, and you can see that his nose is a quirk.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway, he pops a quirk out of his face somewhere, let's say. I'm pretty sure it's his nose.
Okay, I'll accept it.
And then feeds a siphon tube down there and siphons out something, and we find out it's some sake, and old booze man is like, oh yeah, I put an extra organ in you because I've always wondered what sake fermented inside a human would be like. And Gugu is, upset about this, reasonably, I suspect. Seems like kind of a crappy thing to do, but
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah.
Although he lets him siphon all of it out before freaking out or running away, that is. But yeah, maybe not all of it, but he lets him finish.
Yeah.
Like, now tell me about this. I don't like
sort
it.
of in shock, I think, like, what?
Yeah, what is happening?
Anyway, yeah, so then, as you said, Gugu then runs away. He's like, screw this. You guys suck. Screw you, Boozman. You're a jerk. And yeah, he runs off, and then Rayanne is saying someone should go look for him. I'll go look for him. And they're like, you don't really know him or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember exactly how that discussion happens. But
she's like, I don't know him that well. I'm not going to go by myself.
Right. Yeah.
And she tries to get Fushi to go, and he's
she tries to get old man, Booze Man, to go first, and Booze Man's like, oh no, I'm so busy with my crossword puzzles or whatever it is. Anyway, yeah, and she tries to get Fushi to go, and Fushi's like, no, I don't want him back. I think he's a jerk now because he cut me and he burned me and stuff. He doesn't say all of that, but I interpret.
Yeah, look on his face.
Yeah. He's like, no, I don't want to go look for him. And so then we see Gugu, what he's doing after he runs away. He goes back to his old boss who he used to tend fields for, and asks him for a job, and his boss gives him the job, and he does the work. And the boss says, hey, you should come live with me and my family. And then the boss's son is a jerk to Gugu because he's like this monster thing. And
well, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like he gets his old job back, and then he's ridiculed for the mask or the helmet.
Yeah.
And then it escalates to the point of him saying, screw it, I'll take the mask off.
Well, some people sort of attack him after work one day and like steal his mask and throw it in a pond. And then he goes to fetch it back, and he's like, wait, why do I need this mask? People should just accept me for my disfigured self that I am, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once he takes it off, he just horrifies everyone he sees.
Well, everyone that sees him.
Well, yeah, everyone that sees. Oh, yeah. And I don't know. It's a thing I didn't like about this episode, where it's like, I mean, obviously we don't ever see in the anime, we don't see what his face looks like.
We also don't in the manga, at least as far as I've gotten.
Okay. But it's like, so obviously, like, it must be pretty horrific if everyone, that sees it is just like,
Well, sometimes we see like a little bit of his eye. And
yeah,
like
a little
super
bit, yeah.
bulgy, and then we know or think or assume that he has a cork for a nose, which is,
yeah, which is
it's
odd.
always like very, it's always very darkly drawn. I gotta adjust this now.
Yeah, well, it's all very shadowed, so it's like, you
Yeah.
know, as to not really give away too much. But
Right.
I don't know. I listen. I can accept a few people, or even the majority of people, being like, but like I would have liked some difference in the reactions. They were all pretty much the same. Like I would imagine someone like
His former boss is at first sort of taken aback by it, but then is fine with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he's like the only one.
Yeah.
And I guess because like he knew him from before, but other people should have known him too because he was a fixture. Like, that's just what I didn't get.
Yeah, but
like,
he's not someone that they would pay attention to.
Yeah, I just didn't buy it. I just didn't buy this unilateral, the boss's side, but you know, this sort of unilateral like disgust and dismissal of him. I mean, he's still a child. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I can totally see some people having that reaction, but it's just they were driving it home of like nobody could love this boy, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so that really ties it in at the end, which we're getting to. But I just wanted to throw that in there.
Um, yeah. So Gugu, yeah, people are mean to him and calling him a monster and stuff like that at his old job. And then the boss's son comes out to where Gugu's staying, which is the old tent that he lived in with his brother,
Mm-hmm.
and throws water on him and tells him, "Don't come back to work because you're making our family look bad by our association with you," basically. Even though my dad's a really kind person and would do anything for you, that should make you want to come back even less because you're doing damage to his reputation by being there. Which Gugu's like, okay, fine, I guess. He goes and he sort of hides out by work instead of going to work and hears all the people talking about him. And he's like, all right, screw this. I'm out of here. Yeah, so he just sort of quits the job without quitting. At this point, I think we go back and we see Fushi is trying to do the chores and stuff that Gugu has taught him to do, but Fushi basically sucks at all of these things because he doesn't actually know how to do them. He mostly just sort of hung out with Gugu while Gugu was doing them.
Yeah.
And yeah.
He's trying to like just mimic it, but
yeah,
a poor imitation.
but he has no idea what he's doing. So he cooks terrible food. He ruins the crops. He does everything wrong.
And
basically.
clearly, Rian and Pioran
Mm.
and Buzman are of no use for cooking, working the fields, cleaning, all these things. But okay.
Yeah, apparently so. Anyway, so at some point, Fushi goes to Pioran and says, I need you to teach me how to cook, I need you to teach me how to clean, and I need you to teach me how to tend the fields. And she's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And he's like, well, why not? She says, just go find Gugu. He's the one that knows how to do all of that stuff.
I'm busy.
Yeah. And Fushi's like, oh, so I need Gugu to learn to be more human or whatever, learn to grow up because he wants to grow up. That's the March inspired thing. He wants to grow up.
Yeah.
So in order to grow up, he needs to find Gugu, who will teach him to grow up. So Fushi goes off in search of Gugu. And then
Meanwhile,
Gugu is going through town and he sees his brother getting kicked out of a bar and then I guess feels bad for his brother, his older brother, who stole all of his money before, and gives him the ring that Rayon had given him earlier on.
well, there's a scene right before that where he takes the ring to, well, he remembers the ring,
right.
and then he takes it to like a jeweler or some sort of pawn shop or something, and the guy is horrified by his face, but then looks down at the ring and is like, oh my God, how did you get this? And so he's like, okay, it's worth something. And then he takes it and leaves.
Which he knew it was worth something, but I think that scene was because he wanted to keep it because it was sort of a keepsake of Rayon being nice to him. I don't know. Anyway, but he ends up, just putting it in his passed out brother's hand.
Maybe he wanted to pay it forward. Like, she helped me and she took pity on me and gave me this ring.
Well, I mean, he says later, like, after this scene, he says, if I sell the ring, I'll be a monster with a bunch of money. I'm still a monster, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas my brother might be able to better his life with it because he's not horribly disfigured like I am or whatever. I don't know. It's whatever.
Speaking of martyrs, but yeah, so he gives the ring to his brother. Well, he first sees him, he's like, Nichan, and then like his brother's like passed out or seems like it, and he gives him the ring, and then he's like, walking away, he's like, you can buy yourself whatever you want with this, and then he walks away, and then he's like, brother, and he's like, I don't have a brother.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you just said Nichan.
Yeah.
So but okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, so complex emotions happening with the whole family thing there, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then the next thing we see is Gugu's camping out at the tent, and he gets abducted by some guys that he was looking for a job from earlier, and they said, yeah, we'll give you a job, we'll sell you as a slave, or something like that. And then Fushi finally catches up to Gugu and rescues him from the abductors by first being Joan and attacking them as a wolf, and then turning into Oniguma and scaring the poop out of the abductors, who
Mm.
then run off. And then Gugu's like, you know what? We're both monsters, but you're super cool when you're a monster, or something like that.
Yeah, essentially
Exactly.
like you make monsters cool,
Yeah,
and
something
I'm a
along those
monster
lines.
too. The Monster Show.
The Monster Show. I think the episode title might have been Monster Brothers or something like that. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in my the thing that I do now apparently is say how many pages this was in the manga. So last time we were 6 pages into chapter 16. So this is the remainder of chapter 16, which is another um, well, it's pages 7 through 18, so another 12 pages. And then it also does chapter 17 and 18, full chapters, each 18 pages long. Total of 48 pages in
In
this
this
episode.
one episode.
Yeah, it's been kind
Wow.
of the standard, about 50-ish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
So, yeah. And I am currently, what am I on? 21 now. I think I'm on 21. I haven't actually read much in the last week, so so I'm still a little bit ahead, but not super far. I think the next episode will catch up with where I currently am, but
Okay.
I'll probably be ahead of that by that time.
Nice.
But that took an eternity to talk about. I don't know. I was trying.
I mean, we can keep going. You want to feel an eternity?
Let's. You know what? I need some healing. I need some Yashike. Give me some Flying Witch. It's time for the special challenge. And George has been watching Flying Witch, and I have been watching different things every week that George has been telling me about. But let's first hear about Flying Witch, episode number 8.
So, Flying Witch. So Tony suggested this show to me, and I'm on episode 8. And this continues from where we left off last week. With we were introduced to the Witch Cafe, which was disguised by a witch, and it has a ghost waitress working at it. But last time we didn't meet the owners or the I don't know, people that oversee this cafe who are witches. And so we meet them this time. And at first we meet the younger. There's a mom and a daughter dynamic going on. But initially we meet the daughter, and she introduces herself to Makoto and her cousins. And Makoto's so excited to meet her, and at least Makoto is convinced that like after she walks away, they're talking, and she's convinced she's not as young as she appears. That she's using magic to, that she must be a lot older if she could pull off all this magic to like conceal this cafe and do all these things. And so based on this theory that she has, she goes back into the cafe, and the mom is in there, who looks very similar to the daughter because they're related. And I don't know, it was like probably the funniest gag in this episode, where Makoto thinks is just so like impressed, like, and is convinced that she just her magic wore off, and now she's reverted to being older. And so it's just a funny gag of the mom being like, "What are you talking about?" Yeah, not much happens in this. After that, it's essentially we just meet these different patrons of the cafe that come in.
Yeah.
We get some ladybugs who don't pay, and they just they put out a plate of I don't know, some sort of bulbous greenery, some sort of foliage for them to have a date on, I guess. And then we have this character known as the Veil, which looks sort of a veiled figure with a like creepy kind of mask. It's like a black shroud kind of character that reminds me of No Face from Spirited Away. Very similar, actually. I don't know if it's based on like a Japanese folk tale or something like that, but probably. And they explain that the veil like brings the nighttime, and so like each patron comes in, and all the Makoto and the two cousins are just kind of like, oh my god. And then the last one that comes in is a fox, just a regular fox, and the fox is just eating like cherries and is served some soup or something. And then they just want to pet the fox while he eats, and he lets him do that. They're all petting him at the same time. And that's the episode.
You said Makoto and her cousins. It's Shinatsu.
Chinatsu and K-kun, the older one. Right?
The not the boy.
The boy, yeah.
Oh, it is. He
Mhm.
goes in the cafe with them.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't remember that at all.
Yeah. And while they're there, they're
okay.
like, oh, we should bring Now here, their
Yeah.
mutual high school friend.
Yeah. Huh. I didn't remember that he was there at all in this episode. I was trying to figure out when you said cousins. I was like, who else is there? But it's really those two, right? So
Yeah.
I guess I should have guessed that, but
Yeah, he doesn't do much. I mean,
I mean,
when the fox comes in, Makoto starts petting him, and then he's like, "Oh, I want to do it too," and then Shinatsu joins in. But other than that, he's just kind of there.
he's pretty quiet most of the time anyway, right? Kind of background character.
Yeah, he's not too not too vocal or interesting, but he's fine. He's.
I want to pet a fox too. I want to go to a witch cafe with a
Hey,
waitress.
I'd do it too.
Man, what town is this in? We got to go there.
Well, once we go to Japan, we're gonna hit up this town.
First stop, man. First stop.
It'd be our only
stay
stop.
there the whole time. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of about it. I don't have much more to say. I don't. This one is not my favorite. I didn't dislike it. Gave it a 6 out of 10. But
it's just a sort of chill episode. I don't think there's.
Yeah, like it was already more interesting to be introduced to like the idea of this cafe and the whole the thing with the ghost waitress and all that setup was cool. And now continuing it, it's just like, oh, okay, yeah.
So meeting all the spirits didn't really do much for you.
Well, I mean, you meet the Veil, which is kind of cool, but the other two, are they supposed to be spirits? I thought they just seem like they're ladybugs and a fox, but they didn't really expand on like those. The Veil, they're like, oh, the Veil brings the night and all this. So there's lore behind that, but it was just like when the fox showed up, it was like, oh, it's just a fox. That I don't know that I got out of it, but maybe I remember you had said there's this cafe or maybe this portion of the season kind of carries on a bit,
Yeah, it's in a few episodes, I think.
Okay, so maybe I'll learn more
there
about.
Might be more, yeah,
about what's going on there.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Like, I think it ties into something later as well, but
okay.
All right. Well, I guess that's Flying Witch. And then next, we don't have to do anything. We just end the episode here. No? You want to pick something. All right. Fine, George. Tell me what I should have watched already this week. I mean, tell me what you think I haven't watched, but I clearly have.
Because you just got the magic. Well, this one's probably pretty easy. Low-hanging fruit. The show that's beloved by many, goes back quite a while, the 90s. Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. All right. Cowboy Bebop.
I mean, it's what's written on this list here.
Yes.
And I do love it.
Wait, how would it be written on that list? I made that list, and I don't know what you're going to pick.
No, I wrote it. It's in pencil.
Oh, you just wrote it in. Okay.
Yeah. There's a spot to write in the show that I'm going to pick.
Oh, I see.
And so I wrote it in.
Wait, you have a pencil?
I didn't get a pencil.
I didn't get a pencil. Cowboy Bebop. Yes, you showed this show to me many years ago, and you made me watch the dub because you said it was. I don't know if you said the best dub, or one of the best. You thought it was good though. You thought it was a good dub.
I like the dub. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's what's on trial here, but
I think a lot of people like the dub. I did not watch the dub. No.
Yeah, because you don't like the dub.
I watched the first 1 or 2 episodes. I forget how much you.
I think we just watched the first one.
Maybe it was just the first one. Yeah.
Because
I did not care for the quality of that dub, but I did watch this with Japanese audio and English subtitles.
Ah, nice.
And what does it say? Episodes 1 through 12. It's 1 through 13, right? Because there's 26. I watched 13, right? It says 13 on yours, probably. Okay. You penciled it in. I mean,
yes,
penciled in that I wrote 13. That I watched 13 of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you know all that stuff. Anyway, so my feelings on this show, without going into like great detail about what the show's about or anything, because most people already know what the show's about. Almost everyone has seen this. I am one of the few holdouts, I guess, that I just missed it in its initial run, and it never really came up on my radar as something to watch, even though I know it's a really popular show. Um, yeah, so watching it, I felt like it's trying really hard to be cool. Like it's like, hey kids, this is a cool show. You know how cool it is? We have a jazz intro. Ooh, look at this guy. His name's Spike Spiegel. Isn't he cool, kids? Anyway, it felt a lot like that. Like I don't know. Maybe if I'd watched it when it came out, or maybe if I'd watched it when I was whatever age you were when you watched it first, which are probably two different times. Well, would have to be two different times because we're
Yes.
different ages. Maybe I would have felt differently, but
Okay.
like in the context of my mindset today, it felt like a really trying hard to be cool. And I mean, there's a lot of other shows that I feel that same way about that I think I've told you about before.
Yeah.
The samurai.
Samurai Champloo.
I don't know. Is that the one with the straw thing?
Oh no, that's Afro Samurai.
Afro Samurai.
Yeah.
Again, trying really hard to be cool. It
Mhm.
felt like to me.
Yeah.
I compare Spike Spiegel to like Lupin. I know they're different characters. They have somewhat similar character designs, so maybe that's why in my mind I conflate them in some ways. But like, I think Lupin's supposed to be cool, right?
I mean, I think it's half and half with him. Where like he's cool, but then he's kind of an idiot too. Like, barely escaping with his life, and being goofy and.
But always escaping, which makes him cool.
Yes, that's true.
Know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually thought going into this that it would be more of a full arc, a full story. But of the episodes that I watched, the first 13, it was very, very episodic. Like the first episode stands alone, basically, as just sort of a setup. The second episode, we meet the dog, Ein, who becomes part of the crew or becomes a character that recurs in the show after that.
Yeah.
But like the events of that episode don't really have any effect on anything after that other than Ein becoming part of it. And then we meet Faye Valentine, who sort of becomes part of the crew as well. And Edward, the girl, who also becomes part of the crew. And it's, it's sort of like we're amassing this crew or whatever. Maybe I just didn't get far enough into it in the first 13 episodes for it to really get to an actual story, but there wasn't any real story there. There were hints at there being a story, like something from Spike's past, and obviously, what's his name? It's not Blackjack, it's Black Jet.
Oh, Jet Black. Jet Black, yeah.
Yeah, so he and Spike have a history before the show starts, obviously. Since they're working together at the beginning of the show. But yeah, there's some hints of like sort of ghosts and skeletons from Spike's past, and some stuff about Jet Black's past as well, sort of mixed in there. And like it seems like maybe that's where the story's going to go, but it never really got anywhere in the first half of the series, which is what I watched. I don't super dislike any of the characters, but I like not super in love with any of them either. Like Ein's probably my favorite character, and he's just a dog, and he's my favorite character because he's a dog, and I like dogs.
He's cool.
Edward is cool as well. I like Edward, but she doesn't do much beyond the initial episode where she's introduced. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like it was so episodic. There was nothing drawing me in to continue watching beyond what I watched, right? There's nothing like maybe some mild curiosity about what's her name in Spike's ex-girlfriend or whatever
Yeah,
she is.
Julia.
Julia, yeah. Her name comes up a couple of times.
Yeah. Well, there's also Vicious as part of his past as well.
Yeah, and that was in the last episode that I watched. Maybe he was introduced before or something, but I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
remember it.
Well, he's first introduced in the 5th episode, Ballad of Fallen Angels, which is a
What happens in that episode?
I mean, they essentially there's some sort of terrorist group or something that Vicious is kind of a part of, or some sort of high-ranking member of. And Spike is is out on a mission, trying to find a bounty, and they run into each other in a gloomy church, a bunch of stained glass.
What's the mission that Spike is on?
I mean, I mean, like most episodes, he's looking, it's a bounty that he's looking for. I don't remember the specific bounty, but I don't think he's specifically looking for Vicious in that episode. It's been a while since I've watched it, but I've seen it.
I just thought I might. I don't remember. Like I kind of remember the church thing that you're saying, but I don't remember the episode that surrounded it, or without that frame of reference, I don't know what proportion of the episode this church thing was.
Okay.
Which I think must have been fairly small for me not to remember it, but
well, it's the first
episode. It wasn't the main crux of the episode. It was just something that sort of happened, and then
it was.
Spike says Julia and falls down, and then the episode ends, and we don't hear anything more about it for 12 episodes or so, right?
This it's kind of structured similarly to an sort of. I mean, not in the same way, but like how X-Files would do it. Like they would have standalone episodes, but then they would be intermixed with main plot episodes that would carry through, but they weren't always like in succession. It was like sort of like woven through of like there's these different cases in X-Files, there's different cases that are going on, and some of them every once in a while play into the main plot, which is alien centric in that show. But this one, it's very similar. Where like most episodes, they're either like hungry or they're looking for, they're in search of a bounty because they're starving bounty hunters in space.
Yeah.
And some of them, like this one, this is the first episode where we first learn more about Julia and Vicious. And granted, it's not like you don't learn a whole lot, but it kind of sets the stage.
You learn that they exist, I think, is about, I mean, that's all I remember. I don't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they have a confrontation. I mean, I don't know what more you want, but
I'm
just saying.
But we don't know. We don't know what the confrontation is about. Even I don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not. This continues up until the end of the show, which is 26 episodes. So you only saw the first half,
right?
But granted, 12 and 13 are a two-parter, Jupiter Jazz, which Faye is sort of the one that is learning more. She's like kind of plays the main character in that, and she has a run-in with Vicious and this other guy, I forget his name. But yeah, so they think Julia is on this certain planet, and they go there, and it's this, I forget the guy's name, but he's sort of like typical anime fashion, kind of looks like a girl, but it's a guy.
Okay.
Trans, I guess transgender person or cross-dressing person. But anyway, so I mean, in this case, like you've only seen the first half, and so of that story, you've only got kind of half of it,
right. But
told.
It's not like a I mean, I guess you could call it a continuous arc, but it's really like a little bit here and a little bit here. So episodes 5 and 13, and then maybe it gets heavier later on or something.
Yeah, it's an emotional arc about his backstory, right, and him facing it. And then there's also there's episodes that play into like Jet's backstory and him confronting his demons. That might come later too. I forget. But yeah, I mean, only seeing the first half doesn't give you any of the payoff, right? Because it's like
right, but at the same time, like I don't feel any. There's nothing in that first half that makes me want to watch more of it.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, like like you already said, like the cool aesthetic is not something that you're into.
It doesn't land on me.
Yeah, it doesn't appeal to you. So I mean, if if you're not buying that at the at the start, then it makes sense that wouldn't really draw you in further because that's most of it. I mean, at least like the initial appeal, but I've watched the show like several times, and I just talking about it now, like it makes me want to rewatch it. looking at the different episodes as well here.
And it's one of those shows that is often compared to Firefly, or said that Firefly basically ripped it off. Which I
Well,
can
definitely
I can see that
inspiration.
similarity anyway. Yeah, like Firefly definitely borrowed from it, maybe a little bit, quite a bit, actually, I think. But so I've seen all of Firefly. And Firefly sets, it can be episodic, I guess. There are episodes that are very much standalone, so not terribly different, but I feel like the way that it interweaves it's the big story, right, in Firefly is more interwoven, where you're drawn into it quicker. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
It got you. Well, I mean, that's we talked about this off camera a little bit, but it might be one of those things too, where it's like
Where are the cameras, George?
Where
are you hiding the cameras?
Off mic. Oh,
all I see is microphones, George.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Technical Tony, being technical.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week. No, I missed the boat with Firefly. I saw Serenity, the movie that came out.
Oh, right.
And I didn't know, that what Firefly was. But I grew up. I had seen Cowboy Bebop before I ever saw Serenity or Firefly. Later on, I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen a handful of episodes. And so I don't know if it's like a 1-to-1 thing where it's like, I'm not trying to say that like, oh, if you like one that you can't like the other, but sometimes there are things where it's kind of like
whatever you saw first.
Maybe, but I bet you would argue that Firefly holds up. And I've tried to get into it numerous times, and I just can't. And so the same, as we're talking about now, can be said for you about Cowboy Bebop. But, for me, it's like I still think it holds up. But someone like you trying to get into it, it's just not clicking. And so I wonder sometimes with things like this, like, is there a time and place? Can Cowboy Bebop and Firefly, can they both still hold up and also be indebted to the time that they were really, that they came out?
Maybe. Like I definitely feel that way about Cowboy Bebop, that like maybe the time that it came out played some role in its success, I guess. Like it was made for that time. Maybe.
Yeah.
And I guess the same could maybe be said for Firefly. Similar to how you feel about Cowboy Bebop, feel like you could just watch Firefly and you would realize what a good show it is. I'm not going to say great. It's a good show with a good story and interesting characters.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like an apt description for Bebop as well, honestly.
Yeah,
for me, from my.
I said I like the characters. I just, the story, there wasn't enough of it. I didn't feel like there was enough for me to sink into in the first half of the show that I watched.
Yeah, and you would, to no fault of your own, like, if the first half isn't grabbing you, then that's a sign, right?
Yeah, and a large part of that is because that larger story is there's just a couple bits and pieces. Like if there had been more of that, it might have brought me more into it, and I might have cared more about this Julia story that I think is probably the central crux of a lot of what happens in the second half of the series. But there's so little information revealed about that in the first 13 that wasn't a reason for me to keep watching it.
Yeah, they kind of bury the lead with that for sure. I guess for me, it's a big part of it, like that whole Julia Vicious Spike connection, but it's not all of it. Like the standalone episodes, for me, like rank as high as those episodes that are telling that story specifically. Not all of them, but like several of them. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't know. He gave it a shot.
Yeah,
it's one of those shows, right? Like
it wasn't bad. It was fine. Like it's well done. It's well animated. The voice acting in Japanese is good. I can't say the same for the English, but yeah. I mean, I would give it, on the 13 episodes I watched, I'd give it a 6 out of 10, which normally is something that I would keep watching. But it's, I guess maybe because it's an older show, I don't really feel compelled to keep watching it. I don't know. It's fine. I know there's a lot of people that really love this show, right?
Yeah.
And like I wanted to sort of get some of that and understand it, and I just didn't. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's the time. Maybe it's the show's not that good. One of those
Maybe.
things is probably true.
Or a combination therein.
Yes, could be. Anyway, we talked about that for long enough, I think. Unless you got something else you want to say about Cowboy Bebop or Firefly.
I want to watch it. I have other stuff.
Firefly? You want to watch Firefly?
No. Nope.
What if they made an anime out of Firefly?
And called it Cowboy Bebop.
Called it Cowboy Fly. No, Fire Bebop.
Serenity Bop.
All right, we're getting silly. That's going to do it for us. We are George and Tony. I'm Tony. He's George.
Hi.
We do this podcast every week. A couple of times a week the episodes come out now. And you can talk to us on social media if you want to. Even if you don't want to, you can. In fact, either way, I don't care. Send us a message. Facebook, Patreon, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, all those places. At Unlike Anime. It's UMLIKEANIME. Send us a message. We will almost assuredly respond to it unless you're a total jerk about it. Probably still respond, actually, to be honest. To all the people who have messaged us interesting things in the past, we appreciate it. To all the people who haven't, we would appreciate it if you would. That's going to do it for us. All right. Good night. Bye.
Thanks for listening.